Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Pivotal Show. I'm your host, Farrukh Ahmed, obsessed with time management and productivity. I do coaching and consulting, and I also host a podcast on inspiring stories and success stories from people who have made it big.
Hello, this is Seksek. I'm a serial entrepreneur and currently the CEO of Rainmaking in MENA and Russia.
Hey everybody, my name is Zohair. I'm the founder of Digital Street, an agency out of Dubai, and I'm working on another tech startup, which I can't talk about right now. I keep saying this. And today we are super excited to have our next guest on the show, Mr. Ammar Akhtar, somebody I have the pleasure of working alongside often at a co-working space in Dubai called DTech. And we won't spend too much time telling you about Ammar. He'll tell you about himself, but I will tell you this. This guy's been doing this entrepreneurial thing for eons. I mean, he's been at it for about 15 years, and he's done a lot of stuff in the with ventures, and his current venture is doing really well. Ammar, over to you. Please tell us about yourself.
Guys, thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. So basically, I'm an entrepreneur since 15 years, founder and CEO of finalrentals.com, which is UAE's largest car rental platform. Really, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Great. Welcome, Ammar.
Thank you.
Right, let's kick it off.
So we're talking startup vultures. That's the topic of the show today. And many people will take away many things from it. I thought maybe Abe, since your relationship with startups is a lot more broad than ours,
Sure.
do you want to give him the first blow?
So this is a very interesting topic that actually I don't think I've ever seen anybody talk about, and I'm sure every founder and every startup CEO or founder actually has gone through this. Have you been approached by, somebody who's trying to sell you something, or like these vultures who think that, especially startups that, early age startups come in and think they can pay corporate pricing, or they're trying to sell them a service or a product that honestly you don't need. You know what I mean? So I'm sure you have one or two of these experiences. Let's not name names, but let's talk about a scenario. And I'm gonna support you with a couple of my stories as well. I've had a lot of people approach me as a founder trying to sell me coaching services or trying to sell me software like a high-end CRM system that, you know what I mean, like I remember for my first
things
couple
that
of
you can't live without, huh?
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean?
Vacuum cleaner when you're $5.
100%. So I remember my first startup, actually, my first SaaS startup was all about migrating people from spreadsheets into our platform, and we charged a couple of dollars a month per user. While I had people from the big five calling me and say, no, you have to pay $50,000 so we can get to a platform, whatever. So please share with me any stories. I'm sure you've had one or two, approach you, maybe even 5 or 6, you know what I mean? Just let's, again, it's just more educational, not, we don't want to, poke the bear essentially, but let's see like what kind of stories you had.
Right. So when I hear the word, startup vultures, when I imagine this, I imagine a Dracula, right? And and that's the only thing I can imagine for some reason. So the thing is, like Abe said, people come and they try to sell you something. But for me, startup vultures are also those people who actually demotivate you of what you're doing. So for example, they come to you and they say, man, your idea is not going to work. Come on, man. No, it's not going to work. So I'll give you one example here. We have one friend here in DTech, very good friend of mine, and he's I don't know why, but he somehow wants to make sure that I'm labeled as a small business and not as a startup. Okay, so he came to my office and he said, no, you are a small business, you're not a startup. I said, okay, but why? Because you did not raise any funds as yet. I said, so basically, if I bootstrap, so am Am I not a startup? Am I not an entrepreneur if I'm trying to bootstrap? No. You should raise funds, go, growth, scale your growth, and otherwise you're not considered as an entrepreneur. For me, you're not an entrepreneur. I said, okay, fine, but trying to suck on my energy, like not seeing my positivity, that I keep on posting on LinkedIn and stuff like that. So I would say any person who just tries to, let's say, bring you down anyway, whatever it is, I would say I consider them as, startup vultures. They just try to, make you feel like, okay, you know what, it's not going to work. It's just, you're just trying to, fake the self-employment, and you're in the self-employment trap, but you're not going to make it. It's almost like that. So I also see that as a vulture kind of an act. Other thing that Abe said is very, very interesting, that people came and try to sell him the CRM. Imagine I have the best booking engine on planet Earth for car rentals. People still come to me and they try to sell me a booking engine without actually checking my website. And I think that is something that is happening a lot. People add you on LinkedIn and they just try to sell you something without actually understanding what you bring to the table, like what you have done. I mean, it is something that is happening a lot, and there are many. I can give many examples, but yeah, that is for starters, I think that's what I think about vultures. Anything that actually tries to bring you down, it can be anything, anybody. I think I consider that as a startup vulture act.
And interesting you say that, because I know a lot of people who, in my early days, they would come to me and say, you would need my help or else you'd fail, kind of scenario. And, and then I'm like, okay, fine. And what would you want in return? And they would ask for like something retarded. You know what I mean? Like, I remember my first startup in like my first real one in 2000, I think in 6, and people would asking for $5,000 a month. Like, what startup can afford a consultant for $5,000 a month? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what startup these days can afford a consultant for a couple of $1,000s a month?
$5,000? I mean, 5,000 dirhams, dude.
No, seriously.
Like
dollars,
and,
man.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, even 5,000 dirhams would be so hard.
And Zuhair, talking about the consultant, like, we come across so many coaches these days, startup coach. And so startup coach who never actually ran a startup before.
Yeah.
Business coach who never did a business before. Profitability coach who never earned $1 before. So, it's like, oh my God. I mean, you're like, man, where am I right now?
So I got to interject here really quickly, because we're moving on to a tangent, and I want to grab that for a second before we veer back. I think I mentioned this on one of the earlier shows as well. One of the fastest ways to become a millionaire is to host a seminar on how to become a millionaire. There's brilliance in all of this, right? But there's also a lot of stupidity. And I'm sorry, I'm just going to come out and say it, but there's a range of people that, like you said, they want to work with you, or they want to, support you. But in actual fact, they haven't actually understood exactly where they fit into your business or your life or your model, right? And without actually understanding that, that's really just extremely callous, number one. But number two, it's such a waste of time, because as a startup, you don't have much bandwidth as it is. And so spend time doing due diligence on something that didn't come to you vetted properly in the first place can be a real problem. But I want to kind of jump back real quick on the point, Ammar, that you made about people, and how certain people can kind of suck you dry, and it's true. Actually, I think to a great degree there's a lot of adversity as it is. You're trying to build something, you're climbing up a steep hill, you've got a big shoulder on your back. Most of the time you're alone doing it, although having a co-founder is extremely valuable, and we can have a separate chat about that. But I think there's already a lot of stuff that you're having to resist while you're climbing up the steep hill, and then to have somebody kind of throwing pellets at your forehead, while you're trying to do it, is like it's frustrating, but it's really demotivating, because you have a lot of this internalized motivation that you're building yourself, right? You wake up with it, you go to sleep with it, you're driven by an idea or a purpose or whatever it is. These are all topics that we've touched on in the past as well. But the idea that you have to deal with all of this and then defend yourself against them as well, it's vile. It's terrible. What do you do when something like this happens to you? How do you deal with it? Like, what do you do?
Interesting.
So it's very interesting. Since I'm an entrepreneur since almost 15 years now, right? So I think that phase sort of, goes away when you are doing it every day. So every day you wake up, and you do your business. So people will not like you. They will not like your idea, or they will not like what you're doing, and they will have their opinion. But then you ask yourself, what have I proven so far? So what's my validation? And what's my internal validation? Is my product is fitting? Is it working? Is it working fine? Is my vision clear? So I ask these 3 questions to myself every single day. And when I get yes as an answer, I'm like, okay, you can say whatever to me. Okay, that's perfectly fine. But the truth is, my product is working. So I'll give you a very small example. I met one VC, okay, and he has his analyst, right? So the analyst was an intern, a business analyst intern. So he analyzed final rentals, and he said, by the way, Ammar, you don't have a product fit. I don't see you selling a single car. Okay. And he said, I'm so sorry, I'm being cynical. I said, no, you actually are being cynical. But the truth is, on the basis of what you're saying that I will not sell a single car? Because you don't have 24-hour operations. Okay. But we are digital, my friend. Okay. Anyway, so yeah. So, but that moment was very, I would say it was difficult for me to understand that, okay, so how can, someone give this kind of judgment? But it happens every day. And when it starts happening every single day, you're like, okay, that's another day at work, and I'm going to get down to my work. I'm doing something really awesome, and let's just do that. So I think I've learned to move away from that. I've moved on.
These kind of offers that we're just talking about, the language that you see, it's almost like those, multimillionaires from Africa reaching out to you. Hey, I want to transfer $1 million to your account. You're the best one that I could find, and so on and so forth. They'll come up and say, hey, they'll first of all, I've had those things. Those people reach out to me for my podcast as well. You're doing great. Loved your podcast, but hey, this is what you need to do to go to the next level, and I can help you out. It'll only cost you $5,000 a month,
and without me, you're nothing.
Yeah, but I'm sure a lot of people do get into those traps.
Yeah,
right.
Well, that's what they keep doing it, right? If it doesn't work, nobody would do it, right?
It's a volume game, actually.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is. And actually, Ammar, I actually do want to add to something that you said that is very critical. Is let's talk about that CRM story. Some people just contact you just because they have to. They don't even check your website. I've personally worked in 2 classifieds, a global one and a local one. And we had a jobs vertical in both. And people would call me and say, I am a recruiter, or I can add 1,000 CVs to your database. I worked for those 2 classifieds. One had over 30 million CVs, and the other one has 10 million CVs. They're like, your CVs are this is just really these guys are weak, not even doing their homework before calling in. Just what do you expect is going to happen? You know what I mean? And then they insist this face-to-face coffee. And then they apply all their sales tactics if you ever give them the chance. I got to be honest with you. I've messed with a couple of people's heads as well. I brought them in. I'm saying? Just when slow. Every business has their slow times. Not in being mean, but I just really wanted to understand how these people really think. You know what I mean? I gave them the chance to sell me something, you know what I mean? But clearly, one guy not even gave him the chance to sell me on the phone. He didn't know what I did. Then I gave him a chance to come face to face, and he still haven't checked the website that I work for. You know what I mean? Come on, that's arrogant.
Yeah, that's incompetent. I mean, it's seriously.
Yeah, super crazy. So, and we do get a lot of those. That's the sad thing. You know what I mean? People, business coaches, or people that want from running an accelerator side, we've had people come in, send us a proposal for $50,000 and $60,000 just to run a workshop, dollars. Yes, Zuhair, dollars, not dirhams. You know what I mean? What is wrong with these people? Seriously.
Did somebody come to you and say, I'll tell you how to run your accelerator, and without me, you're nothing?
That's a good question, by the way.
Exactly. Coming from a company that we've been running accelerators for almost 12 years now, we've had over 100 accelerators globally, many programs, and they think they've found a hook or a better way to run an accelerator. Like, just sad, it makes me sad. So anyway, moving on. So what? Okay, so in what you're saying as well, you had a couple of really good also other insights about people that demotivate you, especially saying, I don't believe in your business. I've personally passed on a couple of ideas to invest in that are doing super well now. But again, it was my personal opinion. Obviously, I didn't push it against anybody. But like, how do you stay motivated, especially after these calls? Because these calls are very demotivating. Like, how do you bounce back, and how do you, what's the recovery with that, Ammar?
So the thing is, because I've been doing it for such a long time, so I think I've kind of moved on. But how do you bounce back? So let me admit that yes, such things, they really demotivate you. For that particular moment, you are like, man, am I shit, or what I have built is shit, or what? It doesn't work. That means, right? People don't like it, or what exactly it is. So even to the extent, like someone told me that if you see, what you need, what? A female co-founder. And I'm like, hang on.
Gender balance.
What will that do to my tech? Yeah. So, okay, gender balance. Yes, I have people, working here, and we have the gender balance, but don't tell me that my software is nothing without, let's say having a co-founder or a female co-founder. So all those things are demotivating. I have to, admit that. But how do you bounce back? So I think one thing that I've learned to talk to myself and ask myself what exactly I had when I came into this business, right? So when I started, my business, what exactly I had? Like, what did I bring with me? The answer is nothing, right? And what do I have now is a lot than nothing, right? In comparison. So I have no reason to be demotivated. I have no reason to say, okay, because of this call, it is having the impact on my brain 80%. No, it's nothing like that. I'll go back, think about it, okay, soak it in, and just bounce back, do my thing again. So honestly, it takes time. It takes a lot of time to, let's say, model your brain around this. But I think that's the entrepreneurial mindset, right?
Yeah.
Because it will never make sense on paper. If I rewind your life 15 years back and I say, I'm going to make one startup where people will create a profile, they will tell me if they are single or not, and they'll also tell me who are their friends. We'll be like, get lost. What the hell is this? Today, that is called Facebook.
Yep.
Right? So it will never make sense to people. It's okay. as long as it makes sense to me, I'm okay with that.
You're a visionary, man. I gotta share a very quick story about somebody who did the exact opposite of what we're talking about today. And I think it was really kind of in that moment I realized that, because Abe, like you said, like when people aren't researching and they aren't really thinking about a good fit for you, but they're just kind of, shooting blanket emails and just hoping for the best.
Yeah.
So there's, again, we're not going to name names or anything, and this is in a positive light. There's an individual who represents a business, and that business has basically been trying to sell me something for some time, right? And it's something that I've needed, but I just haven't had the time, energy, or the money, frankly, to be able to kind of set that up, right? This person came to me at a point in my life when I was going through some significant change, right? I was about to become a dad for the first time. And so I'd been talking about it a little bit on different forums and things. And so this person, his approach was absolutely like nothing I've ever seen. Did a video recording, sent it over to me. First sent me a message over LinkedIn and, it was a very nice message. It seemed like it was a fairly thoughtful and really did some. He looked at my profile and he studied some stuff and he basically put in a few things very cleverly, right? And you got to understand that salespeople don't have a lot of time to sit and tailor every message, right? They have to use a template and fill in. But this person used that approach in a very smart way. So whatever personalization was in there was relevant, and it was like, this person's put in a bit of time, and I can recognize, BS when I see it. And this guy's putting some effort. So I replied and we had an exchange, sent me a video recording. But the whole angle wasn't about, I've got this great thing that'll do really well in your business. Never talked anything about commercials, never talked anything about product. Ask me about me, ask me what I do, ask me if I'm excited to become a father, if my kid has a name, like really went like
Personalized.
beyond, really personalized and went beyond that. And I feel, and this person, by the way, works for one of the world's most recognized businesses in the space that they're in. They're one of the most established businesses, right? And he's a senior leader in this organization as well. So interestingly, this person had the time, capacity, and bandwidth to think about something like this and make it. And then after that, it took 6 months to convert me. 6 months, regular engagements, WhatsApp chats, emails, but very timely. Once every few weeks, nothing very intrusive, nothing very annoying, and I converted. And I'm happy with that. But it made me realize that if somebody has the propensity to do that, then we can't be wrong about all the people who are basically saying, hey, I love what you're doing, but listen, without me, you're nothing. You must have this, and this thing is great for you, and da 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 da. And it's like, listen, I'm trying to present a good story about myself. Ammar, you said this, and I think it's amazing. And at the absolute beginning of this call, you said, you're posting about yourself and you're talking. And a lot of people will see that as, self-promotion as in a very negative light. But to be honest, you're the only promoter that you will ever believe in. Your friends and family will support you and love you, and you'll have people on your team. But, you have to create that movement to really believe in what you're trying to do. And there's going to be a big margin. That margin is usually misrepresented as like narcissistic or, self-promoting in a negative light or whatever. But that's terrible. But, that shouldn't be mistaken as, I'm open so that you guys can come and pluck flesh out of my back and basically help me. There are businesses that will actually work with you, not charge you an arm and a leg. They'll come up with like customized. We do this as well. We've come up with ways to support startups, like either for free or give them cost-effective packages. But we've defined a criteria. You have to have certain kinds of revenue. So we evaluate whether or not we're a good match as well. You really need to sort of put these metrics in place, right? Anyway, I wanted to share that, but I just thought, like on the negative, of course, there's a lot of this positive as well. So, Ammar, do you have any like positive stories that that have come out during your journey that you think might be helpful for the audience?
Yeah, sure. So the thing is, you might come across people who are talking negative about your business, or they don't have a good thing to say, right? But it is your job as an entrepreneur to understand that criticism and see how you can use it for your own as a fuel. So I had a meeting with one of my fellow entrepreneurs, very good guy. He is in e-commerce space since 20 years, right? So I met him and I showed him, hey, I built Final Rentals. I think 2.5 years ago. It was in DTech conference room. And he saw my website and he said, man, it is shit. It is absolute shit. And I'm like, okay, now you have my attention. I said, now you have my attention. I told myself inside, not to him. I said, okay, but can you please be specific? What exactly is shit here, please? I just want to understand. I was very humble. I didn't say anything. I said, please tell me. He said,
and the person you respect.
With due respect. He said, you should use this kind of font. You should use the flat colors. You should use the flat UI. And I took that to my consideration. And after that meeting, guys, I came back and I said, guys, let's do a research. What exactly is this flat UI? Because I didn't know about it. I'll be honest with you. The flat colors. And we did a research. We made few changes in Final Rentals. After that meeting, actually, it helped me increase sales to 30%.
Wow.
So not every person who is actually trying to put you down, he will give you something. You have to take that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's something will help you. That might be a very small thing.
At the end of the day, it's how you take the criticism, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
There would be people on both sides of the spectrum, people trying to sell you something.
I mean, but there'll be somebody who will say, man, how dare you to say that it's shit? Come on, man. I've built this since for years. No way. But yeah, it's up to you.
I think it's, I don't know if it's so much about how you take it, but it's also about your relationship. Like, you mentioned that this is a mentor, so you already have pre-existing relationship and you have some trust as well, right? So
yeah, but actually, but Zohar, I was meeting him after many, many years,
Oh, okay.
There was no communication, no talk. He just came over and said, yeah, show me what you're doing. Okay, I'll see what you're doing. I said, okay, sir, this is what I'm doing. In my humble,
guys, keep in mind that, yes, there is a lot of, where the topic of today is the startup pod with Vultures. There is a lot of people that reach out with genuine good intentions. I think I met Zohair through this. That's how we met, didn't we?
That's how we met. That's how I met Farrukh. That's how I know you, Abe.
Yeah, exactly. So there, anybody that does the reach out and genuinely wants to help. And you know what? If there is added value of what they keep, like, keep in mind, a lot of founders and a lot of CEOs have blind spots that they're aware of or can be made aware of. Okay. And if they can cover that blind spot with something reasonable, now, if you can pay $5,000 a month, good for you. But I'm sure at least the founder would be aware, and then they start looking how to plug that hole or plug that blind spot. Or sometimes a co-founder would come in, and that's why, I know we have an episode dedicated to co-founders, but you have to make sure that you find a co-founder that addresses your blind spots, right? So again, not all people that reach out. I think this is a very misconception. There's a lot of genuinely good people. I met a lot of excellent founders, mentors, even consultants, coaches through that route. You know what I mean? And I think, Ammar, you said something very, very interesting, and I'm behind you 100%. As you're experienced, you develop this BS sensor or sense. You know what I mean? That you can say, you know what I mean? Like, people would reach out to you and say, "Oh, I'm an expert in this." Yet I've never heard of you. And you go to you look them up, and I had people reach out to me, sending me that they worked on this project, and this is a project of a company that I founded, and I've never seen this person. You know what I mean? So I would call them up and say, "Who did you work with this company exactly?" And they would drop a name. I'm like, that person was an intern and they were only there for a month. So like, you know what I mean? So the reference check again, you know what I mean? And yes, you got to apply the, you have to, what's it called? Applaud their, effort, but come on, like, just do a bit more research. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, these people who blindly call founders think, and there's something else that I want to mention. Especially, there is something like in the thousands of startups, in the tens of thousands of startups in MENA. And, we get an occasional 1 to 2, maybe 3 companies a week that raise some kind of money. And then all these people run to them thinking, they just raised $500,000. That's a lot of money. Well,
even if we get 1%.
Exactly. And even though that $500,000, they probably have a staff of 15, 20 people, and they're running, whatever. They think, oh, now he has $500,000, maybe he can give us $50K a year for something, and that's something that we're trying to get people to avoid, unless, I guess, the service is well needed. So I have to put this disclaimer in this episode somehow because, so yeah. And
there's an interesting naivety as well to early stage founders or like new startups. There's this there are these two new founders that basically are leaving their job, and literally like the day that I spoke to them was the day after that they both resigned from their respective jobs, and they were about to start a new business, a very interesting concept, like helping source and so basically taking like rejected products from in agriculture and get them to consumers, because a lot of times like the beauty and the aesthetic of a product actually is one of the criteria for it to get packaged and presented in a shop. Otherwise people won't buy it because it looks ugly, right? But it might be delicious anyway, so that's a separate thing. But we're chatting with me because they're looking for advisors, and unfortunately, though, I couldn't commit my time or anything. But we had a nice long discussion, and I gave them a lot of ideas and thoughts to start with. And one of the things that they asked me, at that point, and I didn't realize like this is actually how bad it is that it happens to people before they even come into the space. They're like, we've been approached by a couple of companies who say they've worked with startups, and they'd like to work with us, and they have a commercial thing for us, and there's like. I was like, so they didn't have any kids, they didn't have any liabilities or anything. So, they're kind of, they didn't have too much expense. But I was like, look, do you have money to spend on this kind of stuff? And they're like, no, we don't really, but, we're not really sure. I was like, look, the world that you're entering, it's a very complicated world, but it's also a beautiful world. There are people out there who are going to go above and beyond any imaginable distance that you could have possibly fathomed before coming into this, that will help you without asking for anything in return. Okay. And then there are people who will come and basically take the skin off your back and you won't even know what hit you. You have to be really sharp because when you're in this space, it's going to get very, very difficult very quickly. But watch for people who are willing to help you, because there are a lot of those people and they're going to take time out and they're going to support you. And I feel so bad for people like that, because they're coming in and they don't have, but on the other side, the fact that, they have this hope that, okay, fine, outside of a accelerator program or outside of a community of startups, there are people who, I know that any of the five of us were contacted by a genuine interest, we'd go out of our way to help them, especially if we have like a good fit or we have knowledge about what they do. And it's such an important component because it actually shows you that, there's something out there.
Yeah, it touches a little bit to what we spoke in the last episode about controlling the burn. And when you have limited resources, when you have to think twice before spending a single penny, then these kind of things, like you said, Zohair, about people offering, they seem like they're offering to help you, but actually putting you into a trap is extremely important to understand. Because if you get into that trap, then you burn most of your money that you have. And then there's no, a lot of entrepreneurs and startups fail also because of that. Because the way it is presented to them, the way it is presented to them is as if it's the most necessary ingredient in you starting off. And without this, I mean, there are high chances that you're going to fail. So I think so. I'd like to take your point on. So we talk about bootstrapping, we're talking about controlling the burn and all of those things. But do you recommend a kind of priorities or a kind of a sensor, to so to speak, to filter these kind of people out, or maybe how to figure out who are the right kind of people to engage with?
See, the thing is, when you are an e-commerce startup or when you're a company that is out there, right, you will get a lot of inquiries every day coming in, people trying to sell you something. But as an entrepreneur, you have to understand one thing, that what exactly do you need, right? What exactly do you have on the table? And what's your DIY? So for example, in my company, there are many things that I DIY. I will DIY it first, and then I'll say, okay, am I good at it? Okay, I think I'm shit. Okay, now I need a resource or I need some partner to do that. But first question always, because I'm a bootstrapper, right? I think from the bottom, right? So I ask myself, DIY. Boss, can you DIY this? No. Okay, fine. So let's find the experts. Or can I learn it?
Right.
Okay, fine. Right. How quickly can I learn it? Right. So otherwise, I know exactly. I don't need this. I just don't. I don't entertain that. Right. Regardless, if it is something that is great, whatever. Do I have it? Yes, I do. Okay, thank you very much. Because otherwise, if I keep on entertaining these things, it will be overwhelming, and then it doesn't leave good energy also in the end. For example.
Right. I like this. I'm a bootstrapper. I think I'm going to make this a T-shirt.
Yeah. Where are these T-shirts?
Or one of my hats.
No, I have one. It says boring stuff, bootstrapper. Boring stuff.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Honestly, I'm a big fan, and I'm a big fan of bootstrap. You know what I mean? So, and I agree with you. I think you prioritize what you need, and then you look for the people that can fulfill, or if you can learn something quickly that would get you to 20-30% of what you need, and then from there you kind of validate what you're trying to do, and then you can hire the gap off of that. So it's a great, I think that's what founders right now, especially first-time founders, have issues with, is they want to do everything at the same time, but executing a plan is key to this issue.
And very quickly, because we have less time on our hands, first-time founders. So I have a friend, he's a first-time founder, and he was working every day himself in D-Tech. I could see him every single day. Then what happened? He raised funds. Unfortunately, he raised a seed round from a Singaporean VC. After that, I never saw him again. And it's been a year that his startup is not live as yet. It's unfortunate that, sometimes you can lose focus also when you see money in front of you, and you can say, okay, you know what? I'm not going to do anything myself anymore. I'm going to hire people to do things for me. So I just want to say for first-time founders, please do not change gears within yourself when you raise funds. Be the same person, please. It will help you.
Yep.
Great.
We talked about this on the last episode with Russia as well. Like, people lose sight when they get money.
I think that's a great point to end on. Thank you very much, Ammar, for your
Pleasure.
visions, for your advice. And I think everybody...
it is my honor. Thank you very much.
It was great having you. All right, guys. Thank you very much for joining us. It was a great show, great episode. We'll see you on the other side.